It's finally here, Final Four Eve. And Andy Patton and I are about to give you our predictions for not only who will play for, but who will win the national championship. Are these Florida Atlantic Owls about to fly right on into Monday night? We're going to find out.
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, the only daily national college hoop show out there. Yeah, we're just talking about NBA and Euro League. The only daily national college hoop show out there. We are your hosts. He is your guy, Andy Patton. My name is Isaac Shade, and we are so elated to be with you today. This show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of the Locked On Network. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/locked on today to get started. If you're not watching us on YouTube right now, you're missing out because I'm rocking a Braves hoodie and a Braves hat because yesterday was opening day, and for the first time in 5 years, my Bravos finally won on opening day. It's actually maybe a bad sign because they've won the NL East.
So that's maybe a jinx.
Dang it, Andy. I just messed up. Folks, we're so glad to be with you. We're going to take these games in the order in which they will be played on Saturday. So we'll start with the Florida Atlantic San Diego State game. Then we'll move into the UConn-Miami game, and we'll finish off by giving you our thoughts and predictions for like each possible pairing of national championship stuff. Should be lots of fun. And Andy, what a March it's been. Hard to believe that the next time we chat, it will be April. Can't wrap my head around that. How are these Final Four games being played on April Fool's Day? Something seems wrong there. Here we go. Let's get it cracking. San Diego State, Florida Atlantic. The line right now from our friends at FanDuel is San Diego State. It's moved up a point, -2.5. Tip time is 6:09 Eastern on CBS. We get the games on a national network this year. Last year was TBS. Andy, we've been talking about it all week long. We've been flip-flopping. Maybe you haven't. I've gone real back and forth on this game. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are right now, where your head's at on it.
Yeah, this is a fascinating game. Obviously, two mid-major programs facing off against each other. We're going to have a mid-major in the championship. Always exciting to see that opportunity. And for me, this matchup kind of comes down to we're talking about a very experienced team in San Diego State. They have, I think, the 21st or 19th most experienced roster in the country coming into the season. They're built through the transfer portal in a really intense way. Basically, all of their guys came through the portal in some capacity. They are also returning 4 starters from last year's team. So as much as they kind of built this roster through the portal, they have a lot of continuity. And that is unusual. There's not really another way to look at it. It is unusual to have a team that is experienced, that has played a lot of minutes together, but that also, you got a lot of guys that came from various places. Micah Parrish came from Oakland. Darion Trammell came from Seattle U. Matt Bradley, of course, spent the first couple of years of his career at Cal. Jaden Ledee came from Ohio State and TCU before ending up at San Diego State. So we're just looking at this roster with a bunch of experienced players. They have experience playing together. They're a very, very, very good defensive team, and they really struggle on the offensive end of the floor. And I think that makes this an interesting matchup against a Florida Atlantic team that is far more balanced. They are pretty much equal in terms of offense and defense efficiency at KenPom. They have a couple guys who average around 13 points per game, but they don't necessarily have like an obvious dominant scorer on this roster. And I'm really interested to see kind of how this matchup's going to shake out. I think the biggest thing that I'm going to be watching for in this game will be the 3-point shooting, because FAU is one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the entire country. They are top 20 in both attempts and makes per game. Meanwhile, San Diego State is one of the very best teams at preventing 3-point shooting. They have held teams this season to 27.8% from 3. Isaac, that is second in the country. Second in the country. So it's kind of an unstoppable force versus an immovable object type of thing. You have an FAU team that relies so heavily on the outside shot that shoots 37% as a team. And then you have a San Diego State team that really prevents that from happening. So that's kind of going to be the biggest matchup there. And then, of course, it's going to come down to rebounding as well. And FAU, despite being, a mid-major team, you'd kind of expect, they maybe don't have as much size as the Power 5, Power 6 teams. They're a top almost top 15 team in the country in terms of rebounding. They grab nearly 40 rebounds per game. So if they're missing more threes than normal, which seems plausible in a game against a good defense like San Diego State, who is the one gobbling up those rebounds? Because if FAU is crashing the offensive glass and getting second chance opportunities, they have a really good chance of advancing.
And we've seen them do that, right? Like this team gets up and down, and it'll be really interesting. Like such interesting contrasting styles to me. And I always love when that happens. More often than not, and we've talked about this earlier in the week, it is the typically slower, more methodical team that is able to slow the team down rather than the faster playing team speeding the other one up.
Yep.
What I'm watching for specifically is one person, and that's Matt Bradley from San Diego State. He is the only scorer on this team that is averaging double-digit points per game. What's interesting, Andy, is as we look back at his performances in the NCAA tournament this far, that first game of the tournament, Charleston, 17 points on 7 of 15 shooting. Furman, who, got past Virginia, 10 points on 3 of 10 shooting. And in the 2 games since, Alabama, 2 of 9, 6 total points. Creighton, 1 of 8, 2 total points. I don't know if that's just circumstantial or if that's like, hey, as we've gone up a step on the ladder of who we're playing, Matt Bradley just hasn't been able to do it at the same level, or if it's just like, sometimes it just is what it is, and other people step up.
Yeah, Trammell stepped up in a big way too, and I think that helped.
And that's the thing, because like I think for people who didn't tune in to really watch San Diego State until like the second weekend of the tournament, just because they're in the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8, they probably wouldn't even expect Matt Bradley to be the leading scorer on this team, to that point you just made. And so I think he's going to play a really pivotal role, because as you talked about, it's like they got to find this offense from somewhere. And is Matt Bradley that guy? Do they find it elsewhere? Is it Trammell that continues to do what he's doing? I don't know, but man, it's going to be fun to watch. And Andy, I absolutely love the confidence and swagger that we have seen this Florida Atlantic team play with. Dusty May not just being content with getting to the Final Four, talking about we've got multiple more games to win. Like, I love it. I'm so in on it. And so, and when we look at everything, once again, the line on this is San Diego State minus 2.5. Andy, who wins this game and why do they win it? And still, shockingly, either way I say it, San Diego State's playing Monday night. That feels weird. Florida Atlantic is playing on Monday. Like, either way that comes out of my mouth, crazy. But who's it going to be?
I'm going with Florida Atlantic, and I think I'll be quite honest. I believe that I have picked against San Diego State, with the exception of the Furman game. I think I have picked against them every single time, and I'm not a hater. I think that what this team has done.
No, you're a hater, Andy. Just stop. You're done.
I mean, I know what the comments are going to say. That's fine. But I think I really like what this FAU team has done. I think they've proven that they can handle a physical defense. And to me, that's a big part of it is this is not an FAU team that's going to go into this game against this tough team in San Diego State, this experienced team. And they're not going to back down. They did it against Tennessee. They did it against Creighton. Like they have proven, or not Creighton, excuse me. They did it against Tennessee and Kansas State. And they proved that they can beat these teams that have more size and have more strength. And I think, San Diego State is a team that hasn't been all that good offensively, and they're going to go up against a really good defense here. And I know that they beat Alabama, who had a fantastic defense on a really off night for a lot of their players. And I just think FAU is kind of a team of destiny, and I think they're going to find a way to win this one. I think they're going to find themselves in a national championship game, which, man, how fun is that?
It's awesome. I'm just sitting here, like my eyes are closed. I'm shaking my head as you're talking about it, just trying to envision.
Yeah.
Hey, who was it that played back in that 2023 national championship game? Well, that was Florida Atlantic. Like, what on earth? Andy, I've been on San Diego State for this game all week. I'm going to stay with that. I earlier in the week,
can't both be haters. So
we both picked this game earlier in the week, but in opposite order. And I went with San Diego State first, and then you talked about Florida Atlantic handling Tennessee, and another physical and rugged team. Who, by the way, you talked about Interestingly, San Diego State being number 2 in 3-point defense, guess who's number 1? Tennessee. And so like it's just right there. But interestingly, here's the thing for me. Just like FAU has proven they can beat Tennessee, San Diego State has also seen the blueprint of what Tennessee didn't do. And I believe that Brian Dutcher and his staff have been able to work and use that tape to come up with, all right, so what do we got to do differently that Tennessee didn't have? Part of that, I'm going to go back to Matt Bradley. He's there, Zakai Ziegler. He's not out for the season. Matt Bradley's going to play in this game. You combine that with what Tramel's been doing, and I think San Diego State's got just enough offense to win this game. Interestingly, Ken Pom has it. San Diego State 67, FAU 66.
Well, Isaac, as we've already said a handful of times, we believe that the winner of the Miami game is going to be the national champion. Let's determine if we still feel that way. But first, we're going to preview this game after a word from today's sponsor, FanDuel. The tournament is in the home stretch. It is so close to being over. So now is the perfect time, if you haven't yet, to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no sweat first bet of up to $1,000. That is bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It is safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scores and threes drained. We already gave you our pick for FAU and San Diego State. We'll give you our pick for Miami and UConn right after this. You can even combine your bets if you would like for a chance at a bigger payout with a same game parlay. So don't miss the chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That is FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Isaac. Huskies, Canes, Jim Larinaga, Danny Hurley. It's going to be an absolute blast on Saturday evening. This game is going to tip off 20-ish minutes or so after the conclusion of the Florida Atlantic San Diego State game. So roughly 8:59 p.m. Eastern time. It's also going to be on CBS, of course. And as of right now, it's got a pretty big line. UConn is favored at FanDuel by 5.5 points. And I kind of want to start there, Isaac, and kind of just talk about where we think this matchup is going to come down to, who are going to be the biggest players, and we'll kind of conclude at the end of whether we think UConn's going to cover that spread or not.
Well, Andy, that's a very obvious question. The biggest player in this game is Donovan Clingan. He's 7'2". Next question. No, that's a great question. What hinges in this game? What are the matchups that make it? For me, this is about UConn's front court and Miami's backcourt. And whichever of those units is able to enforce their will in a stronger way is the team that walks away with this. For UConn, Adama Sanogo, you got to know the name. He's been just wrecking folks. And then UConn is, as a team, has been wrecking folks too. We listed off, I believe, on yesterday's show, their margins of victory in this tournament. It's insane. UConn is absolutely back to looking like the team that was number 2 in the AP poll earlier this season, even though they should have been number 1, but you know, whatever. They are number 1 at Ken Pom right now. Yeah. They are just doing everything. Now, while the backcourt isn't as heralded as Miami, which is funny because I think their newspaper is called the Miami Heralded. So there you go. There's that. They are a strong backcourt, right? They're just not. I wouldn't go as far as to call them as elite as Miami's is.
No.
And so that front court of Sanogo and Clingan, I think is where UConn has their biggest advantage. And so they're going to continue to work to find ways to exploit that. While Sanogo's not the rim protector, he can do enough. But when Clingan comes in, watch out, because he don't swat your stuff and send it right back to you. Now for Miami, Norchad Omir's the guy in the paint. He's got to stay out of foul trouble. But we're looking at the kind of four guards and wings, I guess I should say, around him. And that's ACC Player of the Year, Isaiah Wong. It's Kansas State transfer Nijel Pack, who somehow both Miami and Kansas State got better when he left. So figured that one out in the offseason. It's Jordan Miller, the Mr. Perfection last weekend. And it's Wooga. And so, listen, any of these four guys can beat you. With Norchad in the inside, like I can't wait to see how he rebounds, having to battle off Sanogo and Clingan? Like, is he able to continue to do what he's done all season long? I mean, there's no reason to expect not, but how often has he gone up against a 6'2" guy or 7'2" guy, excuse me, as himself only being 6'7"? But if he does, watch for him to grab offensive rebounds at a high rate and kick out to these dudes for a three, which is the best time to shoot them. And so for me, it comes down to that UConn front court, which has 10 fouls to give to Omer, who's got to stay out of foul trouble, versus the Miami guards and wings.
Yeah, the backcourt matchup is so fascinating to me because I think we look at UConn and the dominance that they have had throughout this tournament, and I don't think they've played a backcourt this good.
That's a good point.
And that's no disrespect to, in particular, Arkansas's backcourt, who is fantastic, but Nick Smith didn't really ever reach the expectations that people kind of were hoping for from him. Anthony Black and Jordan Walsh, fantastic players. Walsh more of a defensive guy than an offensive guy. And I think, Gonzaga's backcourt wasn't great. St. Mary's backcourt is good, but not as good as Miami's. And I think this is the toughest matchup for UConn's guards defensively. How is Jordan Hawkins going to respond on the defensive end of the floor against Isaiah Wong and Nijel Pack? Same question with Tristan Newton. How are they going to be able to handle that? But the flip side of that is the same. Miami's got a very, very good offensive backcourt, but these guys are not elite defensively. Miami's outside the top 100 at KenPom defensively. I mean, they're nowhere close to being, 22nd is the worst defensive team that has ever won a national championship at KenPom. If Miami were to do this, they would be far, far, far and away the worst defensive team. Again, using KenPom's data from the last 20 years, they'd be the worst defensive team to ever do it. They're going up against, again, Texas and Houston. No disrespect to them. Those are fantastic, fantastic programs. Same with Indiana. They've played really, really good teams. But have they played a team as good offensively as UConn, especially the way UConn is playing right now? I don't know. Texas is pretty close. I think Indiana's not far off, but UConn might be better than both those teams, certainly the way UConn's playing right now. Again, I mean, they're just blitzing everybody. And so I think looking at this matchup, how UConn figures out how to defend Miami's elite backcourt, they're going to struggle with that. But at the flip side is I'm not sure that Miami is going to be able to handle UConn, specifically in the front court. They're going to struggle there. But even UConn's guards, I mean, if Hawkins and Newton have good games, if they're productive, if Joey Calcaterra comes off the bench and knocks down a few threes, Miami's going to have to prove that they can guard these guys, because up to this point they have gotten away by just beating the other team, by scoring more points than them. I don't think that's going to work against UConn, and unless they figure out a way to play the best defense that they have played all season long, I'm not sure I can pick them to win this one.
And you just brought up a great point. Something we haven't really touched on this week is it feels like, especially when we get to the Final Four into the national championship game, we focus so heavily on the stars. And we always got to remember, and I feel like this is always true in baseball too. Like there's always in the World Series or the NLCS or ALCS, since it was opening day yesterday, we always get some dude off the bench with a timely hit, or like there's some player that steps up. I think about what's Mr. Trips a lot from Duke.
Grayson Allen.
Thank you. I couldn't think of his name. That in the 2015 national championship game, it hadn't been about him all year, but then he steps up. That's right. Has a game. It's about Dante DiVincenzo in 2018, who just went wild in that national championship game. So in this one, I'm watching to see what you talked about Calcaterra. I think about Alex Caravan. What might we get from Bensley Joseph or Anthony Walker from Miami? Who of those dudes is going to step up and make a play to help put their team over the top? And Andy, something I guess we really haven't touched on is how much is the Jim Larrañaga experience factor play into this matchup and on Monday?
Yeah, 100%. I think coaching definitely is going to play a role here. And Larrañaga is a guy who has been here before. He's been in the Final Four. He's been to multiple Elite Eights. I think that Danny Hurley has outcoached every team that he has played so far. You tend to be the better coach when you beat teams by 20 plus points, which is what they have been doing. And Danny Hurley has coached against really, really good coaches. I mean, look at the coaches he's coached against: Rick Pitino, Randy Bennett, Eric Musselman, Mark Few. That is an extraordinary group of coaches. And Danny Hurley, all right. Yeah, right. And Danny Hurley outcoached every single one of them. So looking at a matchup against Larrañaga, like another incredible, fantastic, elite, potentially future Hall of Fame coach, but that hasn't seemed to slow down Danny and what they have done at UConn. So I think it'll be a fascinating matchup. Larrañaga has done extraordinary. He's used his timeouts to perfection. this tournament. He used a critical timeout to help them defeat Drake in that game. Really big timeout against Houston as well to help them kind of go on a run and win that game. So I think it's going to be a fun matchup between two coaches who are coaching at their absolute peak right now.
Speaking of which, I need a Twitter profile for Danny Hurley's glasses. Those things have a mind and a life of their own. So, Andy, you asked me off the top, is this line too big? I think it absolutely is. I was talking about that before. Houston was favored by 7.5 over this team.
Wild.
Like, people are just like, usually Vegas has this sorted out. I just don't think they have Miami figured out. The computers don't have Miami figured out. I think they've been too low in the predictive metrics all year long. And so I think this line is too low. I think ultimately for me, UConn wins the game because Sanogo and Clingan are too much. I think Omier gets in some foul trouble, and that's what factors in. And I know you've got some ideas on why you think the Huskies will probably win, but that's going to be it for me, is that the front court is just going to overwhelm what Miami is able to throw at them. And I do think, though, that the Hurricanes will stay within that 5.5.
Yeah, it would be the closest game that UConn has played in the tournament by a significant margin if that were to happen. But yeah, give me the Huskies as well. I think the offense is going to take advantage of Miami's defense. I think Omier is going to have to play a near perfect game. And even if he is perfect, like if he does not get in foul trouble, if he gobbles up as many rebounds as he can, I'm still not sure that that's enough for Miami. So I think I'm leaning UConn 5.5. It feels like a big line to me. I also know that UConn has won all their games by like 20 plus points. So we may look at this afterwards and be like, oh, they were right. UConn won by 18. But
yeah, that wouldn't shock me at all.
It really wouldn't. It really wouldn't shock me. Like if they do that and then they win the national championship, we have to talk about how incredibly dominant of a run that would be. But for me, I am leaning UConn. I'm not that confident about hitting them on the spread. But if you're betting money line, give me the Huskies in this one.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Andy, there are 4 different NCAA championship combinations. We're going to take a look at each one of them, give thoughts on why how we think each one would play out and why and all that stuff. But before we get to that, this episode is brought to you by Built Bar. The Built Bar March Madness bracket is here. And we know you have a favorite bar or puff, so now's your time to make it count. Go to builtmarchmadness.com to vote for your favorites. Andy and I are going to be voting for that churro bar, which reminds me, I've got a build your own churro kit in my pantry. I need to make the less healthy version of what we're talking about. And if you want your favorite team to win, then you'll be voting as well. Support your team, support your bar or puff, Johnson. And when you vote for your favorite bar or puff, you'll be entered into a drawing where 50 lucky Locked On listeners will get a free box of Built Bars. That's so cool. Not only that, Andy, but one Locked On listener will get a 12-month subscription to Built to have Built's best bars or puffs delivered monthly straight to their door. You got to try Built. It's so good. Seriously. Why? Well, it's covered in 100% real chocolate, all high in protein and yet low in sugar. That's right. Real chocolate. Great stuff. So run to builtmarchmadness.com to vote for your favorite bar or puff and go ahead and pick up a box. While you're there, you can vote every day in March, which is right on the end of the month. So hop in and support your pick today. Built Bar, a proud sponsor of the Locked On Network. So, Andy, we want to look at each of these different matchup combinations. And I tell you what, it's raining outside my window right here, right now. And so that makes me want to go to Florida, where you need an umbrella for 5 minutes a day. And then you go hang out on what you have deemed the beach battle. I love it because we got all the nightlife of South Beach with Miami versus the sleepy retirement village of Boca Raton, where FAU is. So either way, if we got to this matchup, like keep in mind, as Andy was alluding to earlier, if UConn gets knocked off by Miami, we are going to set a new historical precedent, either with the lowest offense or defensive team ever at KenPom to win a national championship. So just keep that in mind as we look at these things. So if we get Miami and FAU, either way, we're going to have the worst defense, KenPom wise, to ever win a national championship. I love this game because I think, Andy, it would be really, really up and down.
Yeah.
And while FAU has been so strong, how do you think they would fare against Miami's guards?
Yeah, it'd be a fun matchup for sure. And we talked about the worst defense ever. Florida Atlantic is like 29th, I think. So they would barely reset the worst defense to ever win it all if Miami were to win a championship.
Well, and I think they just fell to 30th. Let me look here.
Okay, they're 30th. Miami's like 104th or something. So that would be an insane precedent to set if Miami were able to do that. In terms of the guard matchup here, I mean, Florida Atlantic has played some really good teams. They've played some really good guards. They played Marquise Noel at Kansas State. They played Tennessee. They were missing Zakai Ziegler, but they had Santiago Vescovi and a really good backcourt there. And so we have seen FAU not cave into elite guard play in this tournament. It's what we've talked about being like one of the biggest predictors of success. And in this matchup, you would look at Miami and think, boom, they have the experienced elite guards in Wong and Pack, but FAU has defeated teams like that in the past. And for me, if we're talking about a reality where FAU wins this game against San Diego State, they would have then beat San Diego State and Tennessee, two of the strongest defenses in the entire country. What would they do facing a team like Miami that does not have one of the strongest defenses in the country? It feels like a game that might be first to 85. And heck, that could be pretty darn fun, considering a lot of the games we've seen in the NCAA tournament have been kind of grinded out 62-59 type battles. It'd be kind of fun to see a national championship where it's just back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Having said all that, give me Miami if this game happens. And I think we would have a really shocking precedent of a not very good defensive team winning the national championship. But I think if these two teams did duke it out, I think Miami's experience, especially in the backcourt, would give them a win.
One thing that would be interesting about it is they did take advantage of having Vlad Golden inside at 7-1 against K-State and exploited that. I wonder if they would work to do the same thing against O'Meara on the interior, and that could certainly tilt it in FAU's favor, but be interesting to see it. I would obviously go, not obviously, it's not obvious at this point because FAU's been doing what they do, but I too would go with Miami in that matchup. Now, let's imagine it's still Miami, but instead they're facing San Diego State. This is an interesting one because we get the worst offense left against the worst defense left. And so it's almost like both sides cancel each other out because Miami and San Diego State, Miami has a top 5 offense. San Diego State has a top 5 defense. And then they both have the flip side is both 75 or worse. And so what a weird thing that would be. Yeah.
This would be a fascinating matchup as well. And I think it's going to come down to 3-point shooting. San Diego State's one of the best in the entire country at preventing 3-point shooting. Miami, they don't rely on it extremely. They don't necessarily need it, but it's pretty helpful with what they do. Isaiah Wong, Nijel Pack, those guys are both outside shooters. And if they're feeling like they're not able to get off as many good looks from beyond the arc, are they going to start, putting the ball on the deck, attacking the rim? Is that an area where they can have some success? They'd have to go up against Nathan Mensah, a very good shot blocker, a good rim protector, a good low post presence for the Aztecs. And then, of course, the matchup between Mensah and Norchad O'Meara and how that would shake out. Both very good rebounders. I think O'Meara would have a really, really big game for Miami against San Diego State. Mensah doesn't play huge minutes, and I think when he's not on the floor, O'Meara's going to feast. And so that would be a really fascinating matchup against San Diego State, getting an opportunity to kind of maybe showcase more of their offensive ability because they're playing a defense that gives you a little bit more of an opportunity to do that. So if San Diego State can come out and score 75 points in this game, they might have a chance to beat Miami and secure victory here. I think if you're the Aztecs, if you are a San Diego State fan and you made it past what I said earlier and you're still listening, first of all, thank you. Second of all, I think you're rooting for Miami. And I think that's probably obvious because of the way UConn has played throughout this tournament. But San Diego State, they'd have a tough time with UConn, and we'll talk about that momentarily, but I think they have a decent chance against Miami.
Man, fun stuff in this dream world. Andy, we need to breeze through these last two matchups. Let's go to UConn FAU. So we've imagined both games of Miami coming out. Let's start with UConn FAU, and then we'll move to UConn San Diego State, which is probably what we would call the more expected of the championship game matchups.
Yeah. UConn FAU is a battle of 3-point shooting teams. Both teams shoot over 35% from three. They're also two of the top 10, or top 16, not quite top 15, top 16 rebounding teams in the country. So two teams that like to bomb threes, two teams that are really good at rebounding. it's going to come down to who gets more boards. I mean, that's going to be the matchup here. If FAU, if Golden can kind of play big and help, take Clingan out of the game a little bit, take Sanogo out of the game
That would be a fun matchup. Yeah.
It'd be a really fun matchup down low, but FAU hasn't had to face a team this big. They haven't had to face, Tennessee's got some bigs, K-State's got some size, but they have not had to face a team that is as big as UConn, and I think that would ultimately be their downfall.
Yeah, I got UConn.
Yeah, fair enough. What about the last matchup? What about UConn versus San Diego State? How do you think that one would play out?
Oh, this one is so interesting. Now, UConn, as we've talked about, is the more extremely balanced of these teams. Top 11 in both offense and defensive adjusted efficiency, third in offense, 11th in defense. But man, here's the thing. San Diego State has done it against Alabama, right? And I know it's a little bit flipped where Alabama's defense is stronger than their offense. And so that makes for a little bit of a different game. And they're able to, Brandon Miller was awful as he had been all tournament. But I just think UConn is just rolling in such a way that I know San Diego State's going to game plan for things. I know they're going to have stuff figured out. I just am struggling to envision a world in which UConn doesn't roll through either of these two matchups.
Yeah, and I think San Diego State's a great defensive team, but you know what? So is Arkansas, and so is St. Mary's. Those are two of the best defensive teams in the country. They really were, and UConn beat them both, and they beat them both pretty good. And so I'm with you. It's hard to envision it. And for San Diego State, they're a team that doesn't finish all that well around the rim, and they're going to be facing a team that has legitimate rim protection. We mentioned Sanogo is not exactly a rim protector, but he's a big body. Clingan is a rim protector, and he is a very big body. He's a big dude, plays big down low. He's going to help erase some shots for San Diego State. So they suddenly then, for them to get their offense, they may have to stretch it out and start shooting from deep, and it's not a tremendous strength of theirs. So I just see ways that UConn can take advantage of this matchup that I'm not sure San Diego State, even if they game plan really, really well, that I'm just not sure that they are capable of doing. I think that they could score a decent amount of points against this UConn team, but I don't know if they can score enough. So give me UConn in this one as well. I struggle to see the team that has the best chance of beating UConn that is remaining in this tournament is Miami. Clearly, in my mind, and that's no disrespect to FAU or San Diego State, who I think absolutely could win. Clearly, they could win. But the team with the best chance to beat UConn is Miami. And if you're a fan of Florida Atlantic or San Diego State, you're hoping that Miami pulls off that victory because you probably got a better chance against them in a championship.
Yes. Again, that's no disrespect to either of those teams. That is just a word on how good my UConn is and has been. Let's take out that stretch where they went 2-6 and just remember everything they've done before and after that. That's who this UConn team is, not the team that lost 6 out of 8. Just remember that when we're looking back on Monday night and UConn's cutting down the nets.
Well, Isaac, like we said, this is the last time we're going to record together in March. It has been a tremendous month of content, almost daily, basically daily. It's been so fun, so exciting. I thank you all so much who have listened, whether this is your first show, your 100th show. Have we done 100 shows? God, I think we have done 100 shows now.
Yeah.
Regardless, we appreciate all of you. If you have not done so yet, go find us on YouTube. You can just search Locked On College Basketball. Hit that big red subscribe button. We did cross 700, so our next goal is to get 3/4 of the way to 1,750. Isaac, I think we can get there before whatever team, UConn or not, is cutting down those nets on Monday. So if you are listening, you haven't done so yet, like I said, go to YouTube, search Locked On College Basketball, hit that subscribe button. You can leave us a review on iTunes. You can follow us on Twitter at Isaac Shade for him, at Andy Patton CBB for me. Once again, we appreciate all of you, and we are looking forward to bringing you more content going into the final game of the season and, of course, into the off season as well. For now, though, peace out.